Healthcare Sucks
Jones,
Live.
with us. France is just 2 hours away from a nationwide lockdown. President Emmanuel Macron says the country is facing a public health war and that it will take an all-out mobilization to slow the spread of coronavirus. The virus has so far killed 148 people in France and infected more than 6,600. All citizens will be required to stay home from midday. The restrictions will stay in place for at least 15 days.
On the front line, the caregivers at Lille University Hospital. When patients arrive with lung problems, they are taken to a special unit. But it's also important to keep the medical staff healthy. The priority is really to protect ourselves. We use protective clothing where we are with the patients. The emergency response center in the city has seen 5 times as many calls as usual. The technology failed to keep up the pace. The computer system broke down.
The computers didn't stop for long because the engineers arrived immediately. Why? Simply because there were so many files that the hard drives ran out of memory. We never imagined that we could get there in such a short time.
In southern Alsace, one of the areas hardest hit by the virus, health authorities have already reached breaking point. There are almost no more intensive care beds. In his address to the nation, Emmanuel Macron announced that a military hospital will be set up in the region and the army deployed to transport the sick to hospitals.
We are at a war. We're in a public health war. We're not fighting against an army or another nation, but the enemy is here, invisible, elusive, an advancing enemy, and that requires general mobilization.
Hours before Macron commanded the French to stay home, people rushed to stock up on supplies. Starting from midday today, the movement of citizens will be tightly restricted. People will be allowed to leave only for essential activities like food shopping. Some 100,000 police will be deployed to enforce the lockdown.
Violation of these rules is currently punishable by a fine of around 38 euros. It will be raised very quickly to a higher level, which could be 135 euros. Our aim is not to punish, but to call everyone to account.
As doctors warn about an increasingly dire situation, many hope the aggressive move by France will save lives.
Our correspondent Lisa Lewis joins us now from Paris. Lisa, France faces a complete lockdown starting midday today. What's the situation in Paris where you are right now? How are people responding to the crisis?
Well, I think many people here were expecting that there were rumors going around that it would even be worse, actually, that we have to stay at home for 45 days, couldn't leave the house at all, and that there would be a complete curfew from 6 p.m. on. Now, what the president announced was a bit of a lighter version of that. However, many people are obviously not really happy about that. There are lots of people, it's reported that many people are actually leaving big cities such as Paris to go to the countryside and stay with someone for this period of 2 weeks. Some people, though, are expecting the president, the government, to maybe announce even stricter measures, thinking that this might be just the first step.
Experts warn of an increasingly dire situation. What does that mean for each and every one?
AKA bugging out.
Well, it means that now from midday on, really, you will not be able to leave the house unless you go grocery shopping. You have to go to work. That is, you can't actually work from home. You have to take care of someone, for example, an elderly parent. And this all works with a declaration of honor that you have to download from the internet. You say, I declare that I have to go to the shops now, and then you will be let through. You can also go for a run, for example, or walk your dog, unless you go with someone. So the government is really trying to isolate people. I think now people are still trying to do the last thing that they needed to do before going into lockdown. That's why there are many people out in the streets, or many people are also leaving certain places to go to the place of confinement for the next 2 days.
Now, some in France say that we could soon see a scenario like in Italy, where doctors have to choose who to treat, a decision between life and death. How fast is the outbreak progressing in France?
It's progressing faster and faster. We're not at the Italian scenario just yet, but the number of contaminated people over the past 24 hours was at 1,200 compared to 800 the day before. So it's progressing faster, and that's also what the government wants to make clear to people, that if they want to prevent that Italian scenario from happening, that they have to stay at home. The president last night in his speech said several times, we are at war. He was appealing to the civil responsibility of each French person, each people living in the country, because obviously he had the impression that people weren't taking this seriously enough, and he really wanted to make clear that the French now have to change behavior if they want to prevent the Italian scenario from happening.
All right, Lisa Luce, the report.
He totally shut down the yellow vest movement, guys. Totally.
Here in Germany, the government is also ratcheting up its response to the coronavirus outbreak. Foreign Minister Heiko Maas has just announced a plan to fly home all Germans who are stranded abroad. Maas says the government is providing up to 50 million euros for the airlift operation. At the same time, he warned against any tourist travel outside the country from now on. On Monday, Chancellor Angela Merkel had a similar message in a live address to the nation. No more travel, stay at home, keep your distance. More than 7,000 Germans have been diagnosed with COVID-19. 17 have died.
The chairs had been especially arranged to keep people well apart. But that wasn't the only thing out of the ordinary at this press conference. After high-level talks at the Chancellery, Merkel stepped out to announce the most drastic response to a health crisis in living memory. Retailers of essential supplies, such as pharmacies, will remain open. Supermarkets will even be open for an extra day on Sundays. But from playgrounds to hotels, leisure activities have been severely curtailed.
Such drastic measures have never been taken in our country. But at the moment, they're necessary to reduce the amount of close contact between people, to bring down the number of infections and serious cases.
Bundestag President Wolfgang Schäuble met with party leaders to discuss how to keep parliamentary business running during the pandemic. Later in the day, Merkel held a telephone conference with state ministers over the new measures. Restrictions such as the closure of playgrounds are to be implemented uniformly across the entire country. In Germany, hospitals are well stocked, and the government is keen to allay fears over the fallout from the disease.
We are setting aside 10 billion euros to meet the costs arising from additional medical expenditure and the economic consequences of the virus. We are leaving no one behind.
A crisis committee set up by the Health and the Interior Ministries is meeting on Tuesday to help put in place the raft of restrictions. The question now is if the measures will succeed in slowing the spread of the coronavirus.
Volkswagen is about to shutter most of its European plants as the coronavirus pandemic disrupts supply chains and demands protection of the company's workers. The car maker also expects demand to plummet, with customers in many countries staying home and out of dealerships. Production will be halted this week at Volkswagen plants in Spain, Portugal and Slovakia, as well as Lamborghini and Ducati plants in Italy. That will be followed by production stops in Germany and other European plants. Management expects production to be halted for 2 to 3 weeks. And Spain, of course, is one of the European countries already under lockdown, as authorities reported a 20% jump in new infections. With more than 9,000 cases, Spain is now the country with the fourth highest number of infections worldwide. Madrid and other cities are enforcing far-reaching restrictions on people's movement for the next 2 weeks. People are only allowed to leave their homes to buy food, medicine or go to work. Spain has also joined other European countries in closing its land borders, except for citizens, permanent residents and workers. And for more, we're joined now by DW's correspondent Jan-Philipp Scholz, who is in Seville. Jan-Philipp, what's it like on the streets there? Do you see heavy police presence? Are people actually observing the curfew?
At the moment, the situation seems to be calm. My impression is that people accept the new measures of the government. Usually you would see a lot of people on the streets behind me now, especially a lot of tourists, but at the moment there are just a few people going to work. And I think the government is trying to pursue a two-way strategy at the moment. On the one hand, they try to appeal to a strong sense of solidarity and patriotism. There is a campaign now, we will fight the virus together. But they also strictly enforce the measures with a lot of police and other security forces. There are a lot of checkpoints on the streets. I heard police cars with megaphones reminding the people of the measures. And there are heavy fines now too, starting at 100 euros and going up to a prison sentence.
All right, and of course, Spain has Europe's second highest number of coronavirus cases. Is that behind Italy? Is the healthcare system in Spain able to cope with all that?
Of course, that's the big worry of many people at the moment, that hospitals might be overwhelmed soon, and everybody is looking at the southern European neighbor, Italy, of course. The problem is that in the last years, especially after the financial crisis of 2008, Spain has cut a lot of costs in the health sector, and a lot of clinics have been privatized, and there are less emergency units than in other countries. But there are also new measures of the government now. All private clinics are under the control of the central government, and people are really morally supporting the health workers. There are spontaneous applauses all the time on the streets when you see a medical doctor or nurses on the way to work.
Now, Jan-Philipp, what about the economic fallout? Spain, of course, is one of Europe's top tourism destinations. That's difficult now.
Exactly. Spain heavily depends on tourism. It's the third most important economic sector. And here in the city of Sevilla, thousands of jobs depend on tourism. I saw a lady yesterday that owns a small business, and she was just crying. She couldn't stop crying because she said that it's probably the end of her business. The government reacted. They promised loans for small businesses involved in the tourism industry, and they also said that there will be a tax moratorium for people involved in the tourism industry. But at the moment, people say it's not enough.
Okay, Jan-Philipp Scholz, they're reporting from Seville in Spain. Thank you so much. And here's a look at some more of the latest coronavirus developments. Iran has temporarily freed 85,000 prisoners in response to the epidemic, including political detainees. Hong Kong will quarantine all new arrivals for 14 days to preserve its current success at limiting the outbreak. South Korea will also tighten border checks after 3 days of reporting less than 100 new infections. And Wuhan, the Chinese city where the virus was first detected, reported just one new locally transmitted case on Tuesday. Well, today we let world-famous cellist Yo-Yo Ma sign us off. Like so many artists, his concerts have been cancelled as venues around the world are forced to close. But while cities...
And with that, guys, this is the early morning report from Healthcare Sucks. And I got to tell you, this is definitely feeling uneasy. The more and more we creep into this, and the more the lockdowns, the shutdowns, everything we have going. I mean, you guys write in and tell me something don't feel right. It just does not feel right. I've got to throw a couple things at you, and you can tell me what you think. But I've been doing this for a long time, guys. I've watched a lot of scenarios, played a lot of video games over my years, watched a lot of movies, lived a lot of life in reality to know what's what and what's not. And I got to tell you that this don't feel right. One thing that could come out of this after it all hushes down and starts to turn around is if we see some certain character come up as a hero or a savior or a leader out of all this, a single entity, look for that to be the Antichrist. And I kid you not. Because this is the perfect scenario for one world government to step up after this. With everything shutting down, I would not be surprised if this ain't the move by the one world government scenario. And versus possibly the Antichrist stepping up, if depending how this looks, if a figurehead starts out of this. I'm just watching it unfold, guys, and it's like, I have to truly say that I am very proud and very blessed that I feel our age group and us people right now were chosen, guys, to live and experience what's going on. And out of the whole history of the world in the United States and the history of the Bible and the history of whatever you believe in, Nostradamus, or you, anything that as time goes back and as time will go forward now. This is a very special time we are in right now, guys. Kid yourselves not. You may not see as many drastic changes as we will see in the next 6 months to a year, I put it to you guys. This is we heard over several presidents, including the last one, the change thing, This is, kid yourself not, the change moment, the change thing. We are living it. And I put forth to you that there's things coming that I cannot even guess. And I think even if all of us guys get together, from the YouTubers and you guys, the wonderful viewers, and Team 99, there's some things that are going to surprise us, I'll bet, very soon. I just literally, I hesitate to even throw more of the possibilities that this could be leaning towards. I may do so in the upcoming videos. Tonight I just wanted to kind of bring you some facts, early morning facts, with a little bit of input and a little bit to give you something to think about as the day goes on today, guys. Or night if you watch this at nighttime. But I'm telling you, my gut is not usually wrong. In the spidey sense thing, oh yeah, hairs on the back of the neck, the whole 9 yards is going off. There's something going on. And I wish I truly knew the exact scenario to tell you guys to prepare for. So with that, what we prepare for is everything. That's what healthcare sucks, me. And I've always tried to help everybody around me learn, is you don't prepare for one. It's like a roulette wheel where it spins and it goes out there and you never know where it's going to stop. That's the scenario we're in right now, because we don't know where this is going to end. We had a 6.5 earthquake this morning, a couple hours ago, give or take. It was off the shore of Chile. It was downgraded to a 5.7, which doesn't surprise. We could go into that. Go over and see Dutch. He explains it over the years. They tamping it down. They've been tamping earthquakes down a lot. You know, in the midst of everything else going on, though, I want to tell you guys, just be prepared for something else. Again, I'm not going to say EMP, even though I did. I'm not going to say meteor, even though I did. Something for us all to think about, guys. If you have any visions, or you read any signs, or you get any gut feelings, you let me know. And by the way, I appreciate your input. You guys are awesome. And I want to give you guys a big congratulations and thank you for being ahead of the curve. We are ahead of the curve, Team 99, and even all of us together as a unit, as a group. We, along with other groups that watch this and we watch their stuff, we've all been ahead of the curve, because after going out and shopping today and seeing what it looks like in Lincoln City, man, I really feel for what's coming for you guys in the big cities. It's going to be harsh. I mean, you watch this newscast on what's going on in France, and people are bugging out. That's what I tried to say during the film. I tried not to be too interruptive or rude, but they're bugging out because they don't want to be locked down. They don't want what's coming. And another thing I caught and I threw out there is that he basically crushed the Yellow Vest movement all in one swoop, because they can't go out no more. The fines are huge. Who has 100 euros over there to spend, or more, 1,000 euros, or jail time? So he took, and they just had another Yellow Vest the other day. I believe this last weekend. So he crushed it. And you know, this is control. There's control factors here going on, guys. Even in the United States, Mr. T is not President T that we've seen for the last 3.5 years. This is total change for him. I mean, he's always been honest and told the things the way they were. If you don't like them, too bad. You know, he's rude and crude, but he's pretty much honest and tells us how it is. To a point. You know, it's his job. There's some things you can't on that. But this is totally, he's been off, guys. Anybody that I've talked to feels the same way. He's been off. And so even here in the United States, we don't know what the heck is going on. And you got to remember, just because we have this going on doesn't mean there's dark, very dark things going on right now. And manipulation and plans of wars out there going on still. Just because they're not in our backyard yet doesn't mean you can't wake up and it might not be coming tomorrow. I'm giving it to you straight, no BS, and I'm giving it to you with using the Fair Use Act, and this is all for blah, 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 hocus pocus fake. I'm supposed to say all these things, guys, but the bottom line is you people are smart enough to know what you want to do when you want to do it. With that, I'm going to keep a close eye on this. I'm going to shoot it straight at you, what I think, when I think, and what I see. That's why I'm here, and that's why you guys come to watch me, is because I've called this. Go back and look, as some other people have called this. And I'm trying to get you guys through this. But we need to all keep our eyes and ears open and watch everything right now. Because there's going to be things that are going to try to creep in while we're watching this side. You're going to have to watch this side and behind your back. And right in front of your face, there's things going to go on. So you need to read between the lines, guys. I will try to decode it, let's say, and read it for you guys to give it to you straight. But really, the bottom line is I would start thinking right away today where you're going to want to be and making plans to be there, whether it's in where you're at right now or where you plan to go before you cannot go. Because if you think Lockdown USA isn't coming, it is. You heard it here. Lockdown USA. That's what I'm calling it. 7 million people in San Francisco, guys. In the United States, 7 million people. And that's one of the most troubled areas that we've had as far as homeless. Think about it like that. Troubled areas. New York, excuse me, I can't say it right. New York, New York, I can never get that right. There's New York on one side of the water and New York. Anyway, that other place. You know what I'm saying or trying to say. I've never been good at that word. But with them doing lockdowns too, and I think all this was just a test to see how people are going to react, and then in a few days they'll be ready to move forward with the full lockdown. Maybe a couple weeks, give or take. They're just judging how the people, and I think the people are handling it real well so far. Now, I'm worried about a few things. Internet staying up, really worried about that. Without that for entertainment and to keep us busy and to keep people in contact, it's going to get ugly really fast in a lot of ways. Plus, you're not going to know what's going on out there. We're already edited what we can put out anymore anyway. So I think I've thrown a lot at you, more than I even covered in the film or the video today. But I feel if I didn't share these thoughts, these scenarios, these possibilities with you, that I wouldn't be doing you justice. I would not be doing you right. As fellow friends, neighbors, 99ers, Team 99. So with that, I'm going to end it. God bless you all. Military, don't forget, we're your brothers and sisters too. You want to be part of Team 99 when it comes down to it, because we back you, you back us. You're going to make a decision some days, military guys, which side of the fence you're going to be on. That's coming. It's been there before in the past. I urge you to make the right decisions for the people. Love you all. Good night. Good morning. Hope this is a glorious day for us and not a bad one. Amen. Good night, my friends. Or good morning. And healthcare sucks!